Hi there, people. Lori Johnson here. This is the second in my two-part video series, How to Get Ready for the Upcoming Tax Season. In part one, I talked about the information and documentation that you'll need. And if you missed that video, there is a link below so that you can get to it. Now, today in part two, I'm going to be sharing with you what you can do to help ensure that your tax return will not be rejected by the IRS. It is a problem, people, okay? So I'm going to do this countdown style. So I'm going to start with my third most common, and then I'm going to work my way down to, or up, or whatever, to my number one most common reason for rejection. I want to begin by telling you, though, about this new type of refund fraud that I heard about, and it's a doozy. It has been on my mind, and I really just want to warn people about it, okay? So, let's see. Hackers got a hold of some people's tax return information, and at the very beginning of the last tax season, they filed fraudulent tax returns using the information, and they were so devious or smart, or however, whatever you want to call them, that they actually listed the taxpayer's very own bank account information, and they had money, the IRS sent money to those accounts. And then they called up the taxpayer and they said, "Hey, I'm from the IRS. We accidentally deposited money into your bank account and we need you to send it back to us." And the taxpayers saw the money, saw that it was from the IRS, and said, "Okay." And so off they went and wired that money to the hackers. And then they went about their business and eventually filed their tax return. And of course, it was rejected by the IRS because their tax return had been filed already and the IRS had sent them money. They're like, what? So that leads me to my number 3 most common reason for an IRS reject, which is identity theft. Yes, that is right, people. Identity theft is now the number 3 reason, my number 3 reason for an IRS reject. So there are things that you can do to combat identity theft. The IRS has created an identity protection PIN program, and if you are a victim of identity theft, you can go to the IRS's website and apply for an identity protection PIN, which is also referred to as an IPPIN. And if you have already been issued an IPPIN, it is imperative that you submit that number with your tax return. If you haven't received it, or if you don't know what it is, you can get it from the IRS's return. Because if you don't submit that information, your return will be rejected. Okay, so they send, I believe, a new IPPIN every year, and that IPPIN has to be on your tax return. I have added links to the IRS website if you need to apply for, or if you need to retrieve your IPPIN. All right, number 2. My number 2 most common reason for having a rejection is the wrong last name on your tax return. The IRS uses the Social Security Administration's database to match your last name with your Social Security number. So if you had a name change, if you got married, if you got divorced, if you just decided you were going to start using your hyphenated name, you want to make sure that whatever last name you put on your tax return is the last name that is on your Social Security card. Because if you don't, your return will be rejected. That's right. And then the last most common reason, my number one situation, is when a dependent has been claimed already on another person's tax return. So you're claiming a dependent, they've already been claimed. Now, there are a number of reasons that this could happen. The first is identity theft. And luckily, you can get an IPPIN for your dependents, and it really doesn't matter their age. You can apply for them. But another reason is either confusion or a dispute between parents or between a parent and someone else. Now, who the IRS will allow to claim that dependent is a whole nother video. But it's not like first come, first serve. That's not how it works. But I will recommend that you have a conversation about who will claim that child before the IRS starts accepting tax return, which they have announced that they're going to start accepting tax returns on January 28th. I have been preparing taxes for over 25 years, and I'd say in the last 5 or 6 years or so, that year after year, these are the top 3 reasons for rejects. So I'll tell them to you again. Number 3, IRS identity theft. It is on the rise, right? Pretty soon it's going to outpace the other 2. I'm telling you, identity theft is bad. Number 2, which is the wrong last name. It's just something that happens so frequently and so commonly. When you change your last name, you also need to change it with the Social Security Administration. And then number 1, which is those little babies. When you claim your dependents, make sure that no one else has claimed your dependents. Make sure you haven't given anyone else permission to claim your dependents, and then you will not be rejected. Okay. All right. So that's it for now. Don't forget to come back and see me during the tax season. And also during 2019, during the tax season, I'll be talking to you about taxes. During the rest of the year, I am going to be sharing some juicy tips for saving and growing your money. And if you didn't see the first part of this video, the first part of this video series, which is your information and documentation, I'll have a link for that. I'll have a link for the IPPINs so that you can be all set and ready when the IRS begins accepting tax returns on January 28th. Okay, bye-bye for now.